I am Tobit, and this is the story of my life. My father was Tobiel, my grandfather was Ananiel, and my great-grandfather was Aduel. Aduel's father was Gabael, his grandfather was Raphael, and his great-grandfather was Ragel, who belonged to the clan of Aziel, a part of the tribe of Naphtali. During the time that Shalmaneser was emperor of Assyria, I was taken captive in my hometown of Thisbe, located in northern Galilee, south of Kadesh in Naphtali, northwest of Hazor, and north of Foga. All my life I have been honest and have tried to do what was right. I often gave money to help needy relatives and other Jews who had been deported with me to Nineveh, the capital of Assyria. When I was young, I lived in northern Israel. All the tribes in Israel were supposed to offer sacrifices in Jerusalem. It was the one city that God had chosen from among all the Israelite cities as the place where his temple was to be built for his holy and eternal home. But my entire tribe of Naphtali rejected the city of Jerusalem, and the kings descended from David. Like everyone else in this tribe, my own family used to go to the city of Dan in the mountains of northern Galilee to offer sacrifices to the gold bull calf which King Jeroboam of Israel had set up there. I was the only one in my family who regularly went to Jerusalem to celebrate the religious festivals, as the law of Moses commands everyone to do. I would hurry off to Jerusalem with the first part of my harvest, the firstborn of my animals, a tenth of my cattle, and the freshly clipped wool from my sheep. Then I would stand before the altar in the temple and give these offerings to the priests, the descendants of Aaron. I would give a tenth of my grain, wine, olive oil, pomegranates, figs, and other fruits to the Levites who served God in Jerusalem. Every year, except the 7th year when the land was at rest, I would sell a second tenth of my possessions and spend the money in Jerusalem on the festival meal. But every 3rd year, I would give a 3rd tithe to widows and orphans and to foreigners living among my people, and we would eat the festival meal together. I did this in keeping with the law of Moses, which Deborah, the mother of my grandfather Ananiel, had taught me to obey. I had been left an orphan when my father died. When I grew up, I married Anna, a member of my own tribe. We had a son and named him Tobiah. Later, I was taken captive and deported to Assyria, and that is how I came to live in Nineveh. While we lived in Nineveh, all my relatives and the other Jews used to eat the same kind of food as the other people who lived there, but I refused to do so. Since I took seriously the commands of the Most High God, he made Emperor Shalmaneser respect me, and I was placed in charge of purchasing all the emperor's supplies. Before the emperor died, I made regular trips to the land of Media to buy things for him there. Once, when I was in the city of Rogers in Media, I left some bags of money there with Gabael, Gabrias's brother, and asked him to keep them for me. There were more than 600 pounds of silver coins in those bags. When Shalmaneser died, his son Sennacherib succeeded him as emperor. It soon became so dangerous to travel on the roads in Media that I could no longer go there. While Shalmaneser was still emperor, took good care of my own people whenever they were in need. If they were hungry, I shared my food with them. If they needed clothes, I gave them some of my own. Whenever I saw that the dead body of one of my people had been thrown outside the city wall, I gave it a decent burial. One day Sennacherib cursed God, the King of Heaven. God punished him, and Sennacherib had to retreat from Judah. On his way back to Media, he was so furious that he killed many Israelites. But I secretly removed the bodies and buried them. And when Sennacherib later searched for the bodies, he could not find them. Then someone from Nineveh told the emperor that I was the one who had been burying his victims. As soon as I realized that the emperor knew all about me and that my life was in danger, I became frightened. So I ran away and hid. Everything I owned was seized and put in the royal treasury. My wife Anna and my son Tobias were all I had left. About 6 weeks later, 2 of Sennacherib's sons assassinated him and then escaped to the mountains of Ararat. Another son, Esarhaddon, became emperor and put Ahikar, my brother Anael's son, in charge of all the financial affairs of the empire. This was actually the 2nd time Ahikar was appointed to this position, for when Sennacherib was emperor of Assyria, Ahikar had been wine steward, treasurer, and accountant, and had been in charge of the official seal. Since Ahikar was my nephew, he put in a good word for me with the emperor, and I was allowed to return to Nineveh. When I returned home, I was reunited with my wife Anna and my son Tobias. At the harvest festival, which is also called the Festival of Weeks, I sat down to a delicious meal. When I saw how much food there was on the table, I said to Tobias, "Son, Go out and find one of our people who's living in poverty here in exile, someone who takes God's commands seriously. Bring him back with you so that he can share this festival meal with us. I won't start eating until you come back." So Tobias went out to look for such a person, but he quickly returned, shouting,
"Father! Father!"
"Yes, what is it?" I asked.
"One of our people has just been murdered. Someone strangled him and threw his body into the marketplace."
I jumped up and left the table without even touching my food. I removed the body from the street and carried it to a little shed where I left it until sunset, when I could bury it. Then I returned home and washed so as to purify myself. In deep sorrow, I ate my dinner. I was reminded of what the prophet Amos had said to the people of Bethel. "Your festivals will be turned into funerals, and your glad songs will become cries of grief," began to weep. After sunset, I went out, dug a grave, and buried the man. My neighbors thought I was crazy. "Haven't you learned anything?" they asked. "You have already been hunted down once for burying the dead, and you would have been killed if you had not run away. But here you are doing the same thing all over again." That night I washed so as to purify myself and went out into my courtyard to sleep by the wall. It was a hot night, and I did not pull the cover up over my head. Sparrows were on the wall right above me, but I did not know it. Their warm droppings fell into my eyes, causing a white film to form on them. I went to one doctor after another, but the more they treated me with their medicines, the worse my eyes became, till finally I was completely blind. For 4 years I could see nothing. My relatives were deeply concerned about my condition, and Ahikar supported me for 2 years before he went to the land of Elam. After Ahikar left, my wife Anna had to go to work, so she took up weaving, like many other women. The people she worked for would pay her when she delivered the cloth. One spring day, she cut a finished piece of cloth from the loom and took it to the people who had ordered it. They paid her the full price and also gave her a goat. When Anna came home with the goat, it began to bleat. I called out, "Where did that goat come from? You stole it, didn't you? Take it straight back to its owners. It's not right to eat stolen food." "No," she replied. "It was given to me as a gift in addition to what I got for the cloth." But I didn't believe her, and I blushed for shame for what she had done. I ordered her to return the goat to its owners, but she had the last word. "Now I see what you are really like," she shouted. "Where is all that concern of yours for others? What about all those good deeds you used to do?" I was so embarrassed and ashamed that I sighed and began to cry. Then, as I choked back my tears, I prayed, "You are righteous, O Lord. You are merciful, O in all you do, faithful in all your ways. You are the judge of this world. I beg you, treat me with kindness. Do not punish me for my sins, not even for sins of which I am unaware. My ancestors rebelled and disobeyed your commands, but do not punish me for their sins. You let our people be plundered, taken captive and killed. You made an example of our people, an object of contempt and disgrace in all the nations where you scattered us. You have often judged my ancestors for their sins and punished me for mine. We were disloyal and rejected your commands, so our punishment has always been just. Now treat me as you please. Take my life away and free me from this world. Let my body return to the earth. I would be better off dead. I am tormented by insults I don't deserve and weighed down with despair. Lord, give the command, bring all my troubles to an end. Take me to my eternal rest. Don't reject my prayer. I would rather die than live in misery and face such cruel insults."
That same day, in the city of Ecbatana in Media, it happened that Sarah, the daughter of a man named Raguel, was insulted by one of her father's servant women. Sarah had been married 7 times, but the evil demon, Asmodeus, killed each husband before the marriage could be consummated. The servant woman said to Sarah,
"You husband killer, look at you. You've already had 7 husbands, but not one of them lived long enough to give you a son. Why should you take it out on us? Why don't you go and join your dead husbands? I hope we never see a child of yours."
Sarah was so depressed that she burst into tears and went upstairs, determined to hang herself. But when she thought it over, she said to herself,
"No, I won't do it. People would insult my father and say, 'You had only one child, a daughter whom you loved dearly, but she hanged herself because she felt so miserable.' Such grief would bring my gray-haired father to his grave, and I would be responsible. I won't kill myself. I'll just beg the Lord to let me die." Then I won't have to listen to those insults any longer.
Then Sarah stood by the window, raised her arms in prayer and said,
God of mercy, worthy of our praise, may your name always be honored. May all your creation praise you forever. Lord, I look to you for help. Speak the word and set me free from this life. Then I will no longer have to hear these insults. You know, O Lord, that I'm still a virgin. I have never been defiled by a man. Never have I disgraced myself or my father's name. As long as we have lived in this land of exile, my father has no other child to be his heir, and there is no relative whom I can marry. I have already lost 7 husbands, so why should I live any longer? But if it is not your will to take my life, at least show mercy to me. Don't let me hear those insults again.
As Tobit and Sarah were praying, God in heaven heard their prayers and sent his angel Raphael to help them. He was sent to remove the white film from Tobit's eyes so that he could see again, and to arrange a marriage between Sarah and Tobit's son Tobias, who, as her cousin, had the right to marry her. Raphael was also ordered to expel the demon Asmodeus from Sarah. At the very moment that Tobit went back into his house from the courtyard, Sarah, in her house in Ecbatana, was coming downstairs. That same day, Tobit remembered the money that he had left with Gabael at Rages in Media. He thought to himself, now that I have asked God to let me die, I should call my son Tobias and tell him about the money. So Tobit called Tobias and said to him,
Son, when I die, give me a proper burial, and after I'm gone, show respect to your mother. Take care of her for the rest of her life, and when she dies, bury her beside me. Remember, she risked her life to bring you into this world, so try to make her happy and never do anything that would worry her. Every day of your life, keep the Lord our God in mind. Never sin deliberately or disobey any of his commands. Always do what is right and never get involved in anything evil. Be honest, and you will succeed in whatever you do. Give generously to anyone who faithfully obeys God. If you are stingy in giving to the poor, God will be stingy in giving to you. Give according to what you have. The more you have, the more you should give. Even if you have only a little, be sure to give something. This is as good as money saved. You will have your reward in a time of trouble. Taking care of the poor is the kind of offering that pleases God in heaven. Do this, and you will be kept safe from the dark world of the dead. Son, be on your guard against prostitutes. Above all, marry a woman of our tribe because we are descendants of the prophets. Do not marry anyone who is not related to us. Remember that Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our earliest ancestors, all married relatives. God blessed them with children, and so their descendants will inherit the land of Israel. Son, be loyal to your own relatives. Don't be too proud to marry one of them. Such pride leads to terrible frustration and ruin, just as laziness brings on severe poverty and causes starvation. Pay your workers each day. Never keep back their wages overnight. Honor God in this way, and he will reward you. Behave properly at all times. Never do to anyone else anything that you would not want someone to do to you. Do not drink so much wine that you get drunk, and do not let drinking become a habit. Give food to the hungry and clothes to people in need. If you are prosperous, give generously and do it gladly. When one of God's faithful people has died, prepare food for the family, but never do this when someone evil dies. Take the advice of sensible people and never treat any useful advice lightly. Take advantage of every opportunity to praise the Lord your God. Ask him to make you prosper in whatever you set out to do. He does not give his wisdom to the people of any other nation. He is the source of all good things, but he can also destroy you and bring you to certain death, if he wishes. Remember all my instructions. Don't forget them for 1 minute. Tobias, I want you to know that I once left a large sum of money with Gabrias' son, Gabael, at Rages in Media. We're poor now, but don't worry. If you obey God and avoid sin, he will be pleased with you and make you prosperous.
Then Tobias answered his father,
I'll do everything you told me. But how can I get the money back from Gabael? We have never even met each other. How can I prove to him who I am, so that he will trust me and give me the money? Besides that, I don't know how to get to Media.
Tobit replied,
Gabael and I both signed a document. I then tore it in two, and we each took a half. I put his half with the money. That was 20 years ago. Now go and find a reliable person to travel with you to Media and back, and we will pay him when you return. But you must get the money that I left with Gabael."
Tobias then went out to look for someone who knew the way to Media and would travel with him. Almost as soon as he left the house, he found himself face to face with Raphael. Tobias did not know that Raphael was an angel of God, so he asked him where he was from.
I am an Israelite, one of your distant relatives, and I have come here to Nineveh to find work.
Do you know the way to Media?
Tobias asked.
Yes, I do.
Raphael replied.
I have been there many times, and I know all the roads well. I used to stay with our relative Gabael, who lives there in the town of Rages. It takes at least 2 days to travel there from Ecbatana, the capital city, because Rages is up in the mountains.
Then Tobias said to Raphael,
Wait here for me, my friend, while I go in and tell my father. I would like for you to travel with me, and I will pay you for the journey.
All right, I'll wait, but don't take too long.
Tobias went in and told his father, I have found an Israelite to travel with me.
"Call the man in. I would like to know what family and tribe he belongs to, and whether he is a reliable traveling companion for you."
So Tobias went out and called to Raphael, My father would like to meet you. When Raphael came in, Tobit greeted him first. Then Raphael returned the greeting, I hope all is well with you. But Tobit replied,
"How can all be well with me? I'm blind and can't see a thing. It's like being dead and no longer able to see the light. I might as well be dead. I can hear people talking, but I can't see them."
Cheer up, God is going to cure you soon, so don't worry.
"My son Tobias wants to go to Media. Can you go with him and show him the way? I will pay you, of course."
Raphael replied,
Certainly I can go with him. I have traveled there many times, and I know all the roads in the mountains and on the plains.
Tobit questioned him further.
"Tell me, my friend, what family and tribe do you belong to?"
But Raphael asked,
Why do you need to know that?
"Tell me the truth. What is your name, and who are you?"
Raphael replied,
My name is Azarias, and I am the son of the older Ananias, one of your relatives.
Then Tobit said to him,
"Welcome to our home. God bless you, my son. Please don't be offended because I wanted to know the truth about you and your family. As it turns out, you are from a good family and a relative at that. I knew Ananias and Nathan, the two sons of the older Shemaiah. They were always loyal to their religion. We used to travel together to Jerusalem and worship there. Your relatives are fine people, and you come from good stock. Have a safe journey. I will pay the normal daily wage plus expenses for both of you. Be a good companion to Tobias, and I will add a bonus to your wages."
Raphael replied,
I will go with him, and don't worry, we will get there and back safely. The roads are not dangerous.
God be with you, Tobit replied. Then he called Tobias and said to him,
"Son, get everything ready that you need for the journey, so that the two of you can be on your way. May God and his angel watch over you both and bring you back to me safe and sound."
Before leaving for Media, Tobias kissed his father and mother goodbye. Tobit said again, "Have a safe journey." Then his mother began to cry. "How could you send my son away like this?" she complained. "He's our only means of support. Who will take care of us now? Is that money so important to you that you are willing to risk your own son's life to get it back? Why can't we be content to live on what the Lord has given us?" Tobit said to her.
"Calm down. He will get there and back safely, and with your own eyes, you will see him return home safe and sound. Now stop worrying about them, dear. A good angel will go with Tobias. He will have a successful journey and will come back in good health."
At that, Anna calmed down and stopped crying. So Tobias and the angel started out toward Media, taking Tobias's dog along with them. They walked on until sunset, then camped by the Tigris River. Tobias had gone down to wash his feet in the river, when suddenly a huge fish jumped up out of the water and tried to swallow one of his feet. Tobias let out a yell, and the angel called to him.
Grab that fish! Don't let it get away!
Then Tobias grabbed the fish and dragged it up on the bank. "Cut the fish open," the angel instructed, "and take out its gallbladder, heart, and liver. Keep these with you. They can be used for medicine, but throw away the guts." Tobias did as the angel had told him. Then he cooked the fish, ate part of it, and salted the rest to take along with him. The two continued on together until they were near Media. Then Tobias asked.
Azarias, my friend, what diseases can be cured by this gallbladder, heart and liver?
The angel answered,
The heart and liver can be burned and used to chase away a demon or an evil spirit that is tormenting someone. The attacks will stop immediately, and the person will never be troubled again. You can use the gallbladder to treat someone whose eyes are covered with a white film. Just rub it on his eyes and blow on the film, and he will be able to see again.
When they had reached Media and were approaching the city of Ecbatana, Raphael said,
Tobias, my friend,
Yes, what is it?
Tobias asked. Raphael continued.
tonight we will stay at the home of your relative Ragel. He has only one child, a daughter, named Sarah, and since you are her closest relative, you have the right to marry her. You also have the right to inherit all her father's property. She is sensible, brave, and very beautiful, and her father is a good man. Tonight I'll discuss the marriage proposal with her father, and he will consent to give her to you as your bride. Then, when we return home from the town of Rages, we will celebrate the marriage. Ragel cannot refuse to let you marry her, and he cannot let any other man have her. If he did, then according to the law of Moses, he would deserve the death penalty. He knows that you are the only man who has the right to marry his daughter and receive the inheritance, so follow my advice. Ragel and I will discuss the matter tonight and arrange your engagement to Sarah. When we get back from the city of Rages, we will take her home with us.
Tobias then said to Raphael,
Azarias, my friend, I have already heard about Sarah's 7 former husbands, and how each one dropped dead on his wedding night, even before he could get to bed. According to the story I heard, a demon killed them. He doesn't harm Sarah, but he kills every man who tries to get near her. I'm afraid of this demon. I'm an only child, and if I were to die, the sorrow would send my parents to their graves. They don't even have another son to bury them.
The angel replied,
Have you already forgotten your father's instructions? He told you to marry a woman from your own tribe. So listen carefully to what I say. Don't worry about the demon. Marry Sarah. I know that tonight Ragel will let Sarah marry you. When you go into the bedroom, take the fish's heart and liver with you and place them on the burning incense, so that the odor will spread throughout the room. When the demon smells it, he will leave and never come near Sarah again. But before you consummate the marriage, both of you must get up and pray for the Lord in heaven to be merciful to you and to protect you. Don't be afraid. Sarah was meant to be yours from the beginning of creation. You will rescue her from the demon, and she will go with you to your home. You and Sarah will have many children, whom you will love very much. So don't worry.
Tobias listened very carefully to what Raphael had to say. He knew that Sarah was a relative on his father's side of the family. He began to fall in love with her and looked forward to marrying her. When Tobias and the angel Raphael had entered the city of Ecbatana, Tobias said,
Azarias, my friend, take me to see Ragel as quickly as you can.
The angel brought him to Raguel's house, where they found him sitting at the entrance to his courtyard. Raphael and Tobias greeted him first. Then he replied, Come in, my friends. You are welcome in my home. Raguel brought them into his house and said to his wife Edna, Doesn't this young man look just like my cousin Tobit? Edna asked them, Where do you come from? We are Israelites of the tribe of Naphtali. Tobias and Raphael answered, But we are now living in exile in the city of Nineveh in Assyria. Edna said, Do you know our cousin Tobit? We certainly do know him, they answered. How is he? She asked. He is alive and well, they replied. Then Tobias added, Tobit is my father. At that, Raguel got up, and with tears of joy in his eyes, he kissed Tobias. Then he said, God bless you, my child. Your father is a good and noble man. What a terrible tragedy that such an honest and generous man should have lost his sight. He threw his arms around Tobias's neck and wept on his shoulder. His wife Edna and his daughter Sarah also wept for Tobit. Raguel gave Tobias and Raphael a warm welcome and had one of his rams slaughtered. After the guests had bathed and were about to sit down to eat, Tobias said to Raphael, Azarias, my friend, when are you going to ask Raguel to let me marry Sarah? But Raguel overheard the question and said to Tobias,
Eat and drink something first and enjoy yourself this evening. You have the right to marry Sarah, and I cannot let anyone else marry her, because you are my closest relative. But I must tell you the truth, my son. I have already given her to 7 men. all of them relatives. Each one died on his wedding night, as soon as he entered the bedroom. But now, my son, have something to eat and drink. The Lord will take care of you both.
Tobias replied.
I won't eat or drink until you give me your word.
Raguel agreed. Certainly I will, he said.
I will give her to you just as the law of Moses commands. God in heaven has arranged this marriage, so take her as your wife. From now on, you belong to each other. Sarah is yours today and forever. May the Lord of heaven keep both of you safe tonight. May he be merciful and kind to you.
Then Raguel called his daughter. When she came in, he took her by the hand and gave her to Tobias with his blessing. Take her to be your wife according to the teachings in the law of Moses. Take her safely with you to your father's house. May the God of heaven give you a happy life together. Raguel asked his wife to bring him a blank scroll so that he could write out the marriage contract. Edna brought him the scroll, and Raguel wrote out the agreement, saying that Sarah was given to Tobias according to the teachings in the law of Moses. After the ceremony, they began the meal. Raguel called his wife and said, "Get the spare room ready, my dear, and take Sarah there." Edna made up the bed as Raguel had told her. Then she took Sarah into the room with her, and Sarah began to cry. But Edna wiped away her tears and said, "Don't worry, Sarah. I'm sure the Lord of heaven will make you happy this time and not sad. So cheer up, my dear." Then Edna left the room.